Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to do a deck profile on my new Megacolony deck. So this is the new GB2 Stride Focus Megacolony deck. The other one that's really popular right now is the Machining build. And I'll be doing that one in another video in the future. But today we're going to be focusing on the new Intimidating Mutant Darkface deck. So this deck is the GB2 deck. The focus is Stride. It's not Legion, it's not Limit Break, it's not any of those things. So I'll just get right into it. Plays a little bit differently than Machining because it doesn't have as much support, so it's kind of vanilla, but it does have a couple of cards that have been around for a while in here, and we'll show them. But for right now, starting off, we'll have 4 Intimidating Mutant Darkface. This guy is a pretty decent stride unit, actually. So he has a really complicated on-stride effect. When you stride with him, you can choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards, rest them, and then they can't stand during the opponent's next stand phase, which is typical of Megacolony. And then the other effect in red here is that at the end of the turn that he rested, if all the units are rested, your opponent may draw a card. So what that means is at the end of the opponent's turn, so let's say you use his stride effect, you rest 2 things in the back row, like the Vanguard booster and something else in the back row. Or maybe you want to rest Interceptor, which is probably not a good idea. So you rest 2 rear guards in the back row, 2 boosters basically. And then it's the opponent's turn. He can't stand those units, so they're going to sit there rested the whole turn, unless they run stand triggers, which most likely they're not, unless you're playing against either a mirror match or some new deck that's using the new stands. For example, the new Gurgurate Gold Paladin with that guy with the bell, or the Angel Feathers with their robot stand, or something like that. But anyway, at the end of that turn, you get to draw a card. So, yeah. You get to draw 2 cards, actually. So this is really good in that regard. Like, that's the on-stride skill. This isn't even the GB2 skill. The GB2 skill is basically you can Soul Blast 2 whenever the opponent places a unit on the rear guard circle, so that could either be from the hand or from the deck. You can Soul Blast 2 and you rest that unit. So really good defensive skill, actually. Very good defensive skill. It's really nice to see a skill like that. It would be nice if it was Soul Blast 1, but hey, these guys don't use Soul too much compared to Machining, so it fits. The backup grade 2 can be it can be the new common that came out with them. It can be the Ride Chain, Garafa, it could be any of those guys. It could even be the Mutant Martial Arts Beetle guy. But I recommend running this guy, Cyclomatooth. So this is the Break Ride that they got a year ago. Literally about a year ago, actually. I think it may have been a little bit more than a year ago. But yeah, Cyclomatooth is really good at applying pressure. It's also okay to sit on him. If you misride Darkface, you have to ride him. So you'll stride, whatever. And then when you get Limit Break, then you can Break Ride him. He'll have GB2 or whatever, and then, even though GB2 is kind of useless on your turn. But the main thing is, you'll Break Ride, stun everything on their field, including their Vanguard. And it's just really annoying, because it just adds a guaranteed stun or paralyze. So Cyclomatooth, probably one of the better ones. Otherwise, you could try running like a Legion. But I don't recommend that because the deck's not Machining focused, and he kind of eats the soul. Machining's used the soul quite a bit, so. Grade 2, 4 Charming Mutant Sweet Cocktail. This thing is their GB1. I like to call these units the GB1. When it's boosted, counterblast 1, do something. So this thing is their unit that's like that, meant for stride. So I try to max these out, run no less than 3 in my opinion, just to see the effectiveness of it in the deck. It's a pretty good unit overall. When it's boosted, basically choose one of the opponent's rested rear guards until the end of their next turn. It can't stand, and at the end of the turn, at the end of your turn, if this unit is rested, your opponent draws a card. So it gives the opponent it allows you to draw again, and On top of that, that unit can't intercept. So this is a really good unit to stun a rearguard in the front row, whereas the on stride is really good at stunning two things in the back row. So the fact that it's choose 2, in my opinion, is what makes this like really good. Next, for Buster Mantis, he's another GB1 new card. Basically, when his attack hits, if all the opponent's rearguards and vanguards are arrested, he gets 3k. Or it's actually when he attacks, when this unit attacks. So he's a 12k for them, but it's a little bit better in the sense that it's not when he attacks a vanguard, it's like attacks vanguard or rearguard. So a little bit better than those generic type of cards, but there is a condition that needs to be met for it to work. And the last grade 2 is 3 Abyss Diver. I'm trying him out. He's a little bit, I don't like him in the sense that he has a Soul Blast cost. And the GB2 does use the Soul quite a bit. So I may actually take him out for like a 10k vanilla or Tail Joe or something like that. One of the older cards. Or even like a Toxic Trooper. But he's in here for right now. But so far I don't really like him that much because of his cost. It's too expensive. The Soul Blast is really the thing I don't like about him. But he does have the ability to, when he's placed on VRR, he can stun, he can counter blast 1, Soul Blast 1, stun an opponent's rearguard, or rest it. No, choose one of your opponent's rearguard, rest it, and then the opponent cannot intercept with it, and it cannot stand during their next stand phase. So that's kind of like really good at stopping, like I said, an attacker in the front row, because they can't use the interceptor, so it just kind of sits there and it's stuck. So it really fixes the problem that Megacolony had. It makes him a lot more like Link Joker, in my opinion. Of course, the opponent can go minus and call over it, but that's never really a very optimal thing to do. So, because they lose advantage from the hand that way. So, very good card in that regard, but it's still kind of a costly effect that kind of conflicts quite a bit with Darkface's GB2 skill. So, may actually take him out, but he's still a pretty good card overall. For grade 1s, I am running the new Perfect Guards because the Paralyzed Madonnas are in the machining deck. So 4 of these, and the deck does counterblast quite a bit with his on-stride skill, with his skill, with her skill. So quite a bit of counterblast going on. So that's pretty useful. 4 stride fodder, because like I said, it's stride focused deck. Any stride focused deck, I'm always going to run 4 stride fodder. You always want to be in a situation where you can stride without having to fall behind in that regard. Stride is always the fastest right now. You want to make the deck run on the fastest speed possible. So next we've got 4 Scissor Finger. This is the good 9k, or this is just a 9k booster when all the opponent's vanguards or rearguards are arrested, which is usually like all the time. So yeah, 9 with this, that hits the proper number because this is an 8k. With this, it's 9 and 12, so it's 21. So it's pretty good. So 4 copies of it. And then because I am running the Abyss Diver, I do want to be able to form a 16 column with him. So I am running 2 Battler Ds. Battler D, if you're going to run Battler D, I recommend running like 2. No more than 2 or 3 if you want to drop this to 3, I guess. But this is still pretty good because it's a 9 booster. So 2 of this, and you always want to put them on the rear guard lanes. Never put this behind the vanguard. For the grade 0s, stand triggers, surprisingly, are actually... I've always been a fan of stand triggers, even though back when the meta wasn't using them. I tended to run, like if you saw my Yggdrasil deck, I was always running the Regalia stands. But now we're actually starting to see a shift to seeing more people using stand triggers in decks. Because these stand triggers have pretty decent effects with their GB1 skill, because they recycle themselves back into the deck, to try to keep up with like Legion style, where the Legions get to put stuff in the drop zone back in. They just recycle themselves from the field. You draw a card, so it replenishes itself. In this case, this guy, at the beginning of the opponent's ride phase, if the opponent's rear guards, if all the rear guards is 3 or more and they're all rested, you can put this on the top of the deck, to shuffle the deck and draw 2 cards. So he draws 2 cards. So it literally can +1 because you're replacing him and you're drawing another card. So it's pretty good in that regard. It's almost like the Pot of Greed. I don't know why, but it's just kind of like that. Then 4 of the new critical trigger. 4 of an additional critical trigger because I almost never run decks that have less than 8 critical. 8 critical is just really good. I don't like to mix draws and stands together. I'd rather just criticals and stands or criticals and draws. But you can run whatever. But the stand is actually pretty good because it draws cards, so you don't need a draw trigger. And it's a 10k shield with so much guard restriction, not allowing you to use your perfect guards. Having extra 10k shields is always nice. So 4 stand, 8 critical, and 4 of the new heal. So that's the lineup. Similar to my Angel Feather decks. And then 1 Young Executive Crime Bug. This guy is the new starter for them. Pretty decent starter, basically. GB1 skill like all of them. The nice thing about him is he doesn't use any counterblast. He does also make the deck, give them like a Link Joker style where they cannot intercept with the thing that you stun. So, pretty decent. And he does put himself in the soul, so he can stack for the GB2 skills and stuff like that. So for Stride, it's pretty straightforward. 1 Atmos. Whoops, that's not actually the Stride deck. 2 Jaggy Devil. So 2 of the Fighters Collection, double R, because they are not machining, so they're not going to run Machining Destroyer. 2 Force Spear Mutant Deity Stun Beetle. I recommend running 3 of this. I think 3 of this is a good number. 4 is not bad at all. If you can get your hands on all 4, then that's good. 3 though is a very nice like tech choice in my opinion. I'll give you an example why in a second. And then 3 Power Spear, because this is actually quite good. It does allow you to draw, so it does give machining the draw power that they were lacking for so long. Oh, I guess I said machining, I meant Megacolony. Gives Megacolony draw power. They've been lacking draw power for so long. They were a slow moving deck, defensive oriented, so they kind of slowed them down by not giving them a lot of draw effects. Now they're finally starting to open them up and give them all that stuff, make them a lot better. And then the last Stride unit is a Blizza. Blizza is in here just to help you get GB2 really fast. You can Stride him early. Why am I running Blizza over Atmos? Because if you're going to Stride Blizza early as the first Stride, then Atmos would be better or just as good. But because you can have the option with Blizza, you can Stride him early, get GB2, or you can Stride him late and try to close out the game with a really big attack. So he has that flexibility. Now, why do I say 3 Stun Beetle is good? Because Stun Beetle doesn't actually pay his cost of counterblasting 2 and unflipping a copy of him until after his attack hits. So you can swing, most likely they're going to perfect guard, because if they don't, they're probably going to lose the game, because this card is almost as bad as this is so close to being like a Yada lock style card, that they're gonna block it every time, every chance they have the ability, they're always gonna try to block it. So assuming they block it, if you have 3 copies of this, let's just say that there's 3, these 3 are all Stun Beetles. So first Stride, first you do like Jaggy Devil or whatever. Then you do him, or you can even do this guy first. So swing, they block him, so he's face up. Then if you have 3, you call him again, swing. Now again you have a face down of him, assuming this is a Stun Beetle. So you have another chance, another opportunity to pay the cost because you didn't pay it last time. So that way you can still get the effective 2 turns or 2 chances to try to pull this effect off. Most games won't go long enough for you to be able to call him out a 3rd time. But if you were running 4, you could technically call him out like 3 times max, assuming they block him the first 2. But yeah, 3 is a pretty good number because it allows you to run these, Tekken, Blizza, stuff like that. And these are just really good because of the draw power and stuff like that. So anyway, guys, that was my Darkface deck profile, Stride Focus Megacolony deck. Let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.